Welcome to the ManTFUp podcast, hanging out in the man cave. I'm Kimmy B.
And Lenny.
And today we have a very special guest with us all the way from Michigan. We have got Joanna Lauren, 45 on TikTok, if you're looking to follow her. She's incredible. Before I go any further, let me remind everybody, please like, subscribe, share, follow. We are everywhere. We are on all social media. That's Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. We are streaming everywhere. Anybody that has a podcast, Lenny has made sure that the ManTFUp podcast is on it and available. Now, very excited for this week's conversation. Len's been scouring social media, looking for incredible guests for us to have on the ManTFUp podcast, and he's been bragging to no end that he found this incredibly brilliant woman to come on and talk all things green energy, and that would be you. In case you were
like, wait, who is that?
That I would love to see this
Who is
episode.
that person?
It is you, honey. So again, Joanna Lauren, engineer. Also, I saw MLO on your TikTok profile, which you let me know was...
Yeah, mortgage loan originator.
Okay, we can certainly get into that. She's also a coffeeaholic, so of course, you know, we had to give her a little cafecito, a little Cuban crack. So I'm excited to see where this conversation goes.
Feel a little zippy.
A little zippy.
A little zippy.
But I was asking you before we actually started the podcast, you know, as far as engineering goes, what is your area, I guess, of expertise, or what is your specialty? I had no idea how many different types of engineers actually exist in the world. So give us a little background on yourself.
Yeah, there's a ton of different types of engineering. So I chose to go into industrial engineering because it is more broad. It's got a more widely applicable set of skills that can go into anything from marketing to sampling the Earth's core and studying the data analytics that go along with that. Like it's a very diverse set of field. They focus a lot on statistics. Some people will say it's like pretty much you're getting a major in statistics.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But it's a lot of systems analysis too, and looking at how parts fit together and how to optimize a system, how to get consistent outcomes. A lot of industrial engineers go into manufacturing actually because that's what you want to do. You want to create a manufacturing line that produces very consistent quality outcomes
and efficiently
every time.
Yeah.
Efficiently. Yeah. So, yeah, it's a very diverse field. I actually started studying chemical engineering.
Okay.
And I ended up switching because I had a internship in a pharmaceutical, active pharmaceutical ingredient lab.
Okay.
Where we were like making basically trial batches of new drugs that companies wanted to come on the market. And I was just sitting in a laboratory all day and I was like, this is interesting, but this sucks.
Yes, wasn't for you.
It's just a much more contained environment. And I like to be out and more sociable. And I mean, I don't think that that's 100% representative of what chemical engineering is, but it made me decide that I wanted to get into something that was more broad so I could kind of decide when I came out what I wanted to do.
Less of a lab rat.
Yeah, I didn't want to be a lab rat. I'm an engineer, but I'm also very social. Like, I love talking to people.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I was going to say, and engineering, I always get the idea in my head because I had friends that went to the engineering school at the University of Miami, and some of them were dual majors because there's an architecture and an engineering program, and you can get a degree in both.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a running joke. They were like, the architects, the people who are just straight architects, are usually very creative, but not practical. And then the engineers are the ones that are like, that's a great design. Too bad you can't build it, and it won't stand up. Like that's a great bridge. It's going to fall down in 3 days. You know what I mean? And so if you could
so pretty.
graduate with both, but it's funny that you say that because it's like, you know, I think when we hear the word engineer, sometimes you get this very kind of technical idea in your head, right? Because mechanical engineering, and you have chemical engineering, and now systems and everything else. So I love the fact that you said you're actually a people person, because I think a lot of folks tend to stereotype very smart individuals, and you have to be very smart to be an engineer, as not so social, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I do think you have to be diligent to be an engineer.
Mm-hmm.
I actually looked up the average IQ of engineers just because I was curious.
And you love statistics, don't you? Do you love like numbers and statistics? And
I do. Statistics is like voodoo math, you know, because you can take a very small amount of information, and as long as it's really clean data without like a lot of noise, you can make pretty grand assumptions from it. Like, you can do sampling in the United States as long as it's a random independent sample of the United States. 50 people and you can make pretty accurate assumptions
Really?
based on the whole population. Yeah, it's crazy. It's really, really
Numbers.
cool.
How did you not win the election? Like, you
Um,
couldn't just, like, drill out those people that you knew would vote for you?
It's a pretty tough climate because nobody really cares about who the drain commissioner is.
So for those folks that are listening or watching, Joanna actually had run for office.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, as Len
She
pointed
got
out,
beat out by the good old boys.
by the freaking quarterback. Weird.
Good old
Yeah,
boys.
And she's
we didn't
brilliant.
win. We didn't win.
Brilliant.
but-
Go to the IQ thing, though, because you were going to
Yes.
say, what is the average IQ
For an
for an
engineer.
engineer?
Oh yeah, 121.
So
So.
what's genius level?
I mean, that's
Is
pretty
that is
close.
right?
Yeah.
I was going to say.
Yeah.
Oh.
Like 160 is like you're like really jamming. I think the highest IQ that's ever been recorded has been like 180. And this guy was like learning languages in a day. like whole language.
Mandarin Chinese, and I
Yeah.
got that one.
But he also was like very socially stunted. Like he was
Almost autistic.
Well,
yeah, like he didn't
yeah.
have much of a social structure. I don't remember the guy's name, but I think he was in England or something.
I was going to say, have you come across a few peers that are similar to that? Like very, very, very intelligent people, like next level,
but they don't
difficult to
have-
follow, but just have no or very limited social skills.
Like Steve Jobs.
Yeah, they're like the people that I've run into in engineering that are hyper intelligent are so intelligent that they don't know how to
Relate,
bring
I would
it to
assume.
another person's
Yeah.
level. Yeah. So if they try to teach you something, they're like, "Oh, well, the core mechanics of nuclear fission are super easy. Like, why don't you get
Why don't
it?"
you get this?
Yeah. And it's
What's
like-
wrong with you?
Like you don't get it. Like you're using super specialized terminology that other people don't have the opportunity to understand what that is. You're using you're using concepts that people never learned. Like this is not digestible to somebody who's not been exposed to it. And they just don't get that because it is so normal to them that it was like they were born knowing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they get frustrated because, you know,
Why
as
are you so stupid?
Yes, as you step up,
Like, why don't you
step
get it,
up,
dumbass?
it's like, you know, you're like, if you talk to people constantly and they don't understand you, you don't. I think you don't necessarily know it's you.
Yeah. Well, facts. Because
Yeah.
everybody, it's like, it can't be everybody. No, but it can, and it's you. Like, you know, isn't that the whole thing? What's the
you.
common denominator here?
Yeah, they
You
don't ever
are.
get that.
No, but I would never, I don't know, like, I still wouldn't trade that level of, like, that's just got to be incredible. Like, when you're in that sphere or space and you can look at things
Yeah.
and it's almost like numbers just become a picture to you, or, you know what I mean? Like, for certain scientists that are looking through a microscope and I'm seeing a bunch of dots, but they're literally seeing the cure to cancer. I don't know. Like, that to me is just incredible when your mind works at that sort of level. Even if
Yeah.
it's just in a specialized area, it's crazy.
I mean, she's like a walking computer.
Yeah, but that's what I
Oh,
said. Like,
definitely
statistics
not.
was.
No.
Definitely not. As soon as you learn that you can use a calculator, you lose your ability to
Yes, but I
add,
mean-
subtract, like basic addition and
The
subtract.
ability to
It's hard
search
for me.
stuff and get the right answers is, you know, and understand
an
what you're
invaluable
reading.
skill. You want to be a
you know,
professor and teach people that?
I mean, it's really, I look at you like a walking computer. I mean, just in the few interactions we had, and she looks something up, she's got the answer in like 2 seconds because she knows exactly what to look for and how to interpret it.
You mean my Googling techniques don't.
No, it's that she's got next level. Next
Wow.
level.
This whole time I thought I was like wowing Len, and then Joanna comes
step
along.
back.
Well,
and-
listen, you wow me in social media every day.
I'm kidding. That's incredible. What brought you to TikTok though? Because that's obviously where Lenny found you, and Len was again blown away just by how you were kind of addressing and broaching some of these more difficult conversations about very important topics, especially here in the U.S., whether it's climate change or, you know, renewable energy. Len, I mean, you can speak better to what drew you into the conversation, and then obviously, Joanna, you can kind of answer why you felt the need to use your platform in that way.
Well, you know, our whole motto here is to find the middle, and this happens to be a subject that a lot of people are pressing buttons on, especially with the gas prices and this and the lack of cars available, and it's just a strange climate right now. And you know, you have the people over here who believe climate change isn't real, and then you have the people over here that like are so extreme they're like
apocalypse.
turn everything off. There's got to be a middle. You climate change, just denying that climate change is real, you have to be dumb. Because literally the planet could be changing. Forget about if we're causing it or not, but the planet could be dumb. And when she explained some of the things about, renewable energy and the smart cars and electric, it just makes sense. And I think people need to hear all the sides of it.
Yeah.
And understand that, this might be happening to our planet. We might not be 100% the cause of it.
Yeah.
So you got to find the middle ground. And it was funny. You said something to me last week when we were talking about how it's kind of strange that you're in Michigan and you see all these cars backed up in parking lots everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
All the new cars.
Excuse me, what?
So there's been a semiconductor shortage, like a chip shortage.
Yes. We've heard all about that, but there's
Yeah.
actual. Oh, okay. I thought that they were holding out on us. The way you
No,
said
but
it.
they're all,
So these are the ones that are
somebody's
built,
holding
but
out
they
on
don't
us.
have.
Yeah, fully built cars that are you can drive through like down like around Detroit where a lot of the manufacturers will put cars in a parking lot to wait to be shipped somewhere, and there's thousands of cars that are fully built just sitting there, but they can't be shipped out because they don't have chips in them.
I'm just curious what's going to happen to all those cars.
They're going to be on sale when they finally make it to market because
Yeah,
they're 2
yeah.
years old.
I'm
right?
also curious why all the auto companies aren't crying poverty. That's a very
because we're paying 10 times what we would have paid for the same used car.
we're paying the
4 years ago.
the dealers. The dealers are making the money. The car manufacturers aren't making the money because they're not selling cars.
They don't make the margin on making a car is actually really, really tight. Like that's why the manufacturing has to be so advanced. Like car manufacturing is like the forefront, the gold standard of most manufacturing, and it's because the margin is so tiny on them. It takes an incredible amount of money to make a car, but that in the future, I think that will kind of be an edge of electric vehicles is that their construction and design is overall much more simple. Like
Really?
the battery is where all of the
Gotcha,
meat
yeah.
and potatoes really is.
As opposed to
like
this
all of the
engine where
chemistry.
all of these different things have to be firing and
Yeah.
working
A
together.
lot less moving parts.
Yeah.
An internal combustion car has like 2,000 parts. It's a lot. It's a lot. And an electric vehicle has like 30, 20 total whole car.
Then why does it cost $100,000?
It's the battery.
That damn friggin' battery, which we are going to
Yeah.
get into, obviously. But
Some of it's probably branding too. I mean, if we're honest, like Tesla's kind of marketing itself as a luxury brand,
Yeah.
and they can, who knows what their margin is, but I'm sure that they're not shunning away money.
at all. Yeah, at all. What was I going to say to you? Why did all the car manufacturers, because they didn't always have these chips. When did these chips come around?
I'm not sure when the chips came around, but we started getting a shortage with some of the supply issues with Taiwan. So, because that's where most of our semiconductors come from. We are starting to build our own capability to do
That's
that here.
that was my next question.
But, it's slow. It takes a lot to develop that industry, and it's a very highly specialized, they use a lot of super toxic chemicals in building these. So I used to work for a company that we made process chillers. And so we had some people who would go into the semiconductor factories to service the chillers. And they are so incredibly strict about any liquid at all leaking off of the chillers because the chemicals used in these facilities are so incredibly toxic. Anybody who sees any liquid anywhere goes into a panic because they think, oh my God, I just got exposed to something that is guaranteed to give me cancer and damage my genetic code, like the orange
stuff.
chemical level. Yeah, very, very toxic. So
When you say orange, are you talking about like Agent Orange? Like
yeah,
the stuff that they used in
Okay.
Vietnam?
yeah,
Yes.
like very, very
Napalm?
toxic.
No, Agent Orange.
Was that those are
Agent
two
orange.
different
That's
things?
the word I was looking for.
Huh?
There was
Two different
those
things. Napalm is like a gas jello
that they would.
that sticks on you, that they would drop, it would ignite. It was like an incendiary bomb
Yeah.
that would just, whatever it stuck to,
Yeah, it
would be, you'd be burning.
And then napalm was. And then Agent Orange was something different.
Agent Orange was chemical warfare, basically.
Okay.
Yeah,
Got you.
it
Lovely. And we're using that in everyday manufacturing.
I mean, it's pretty specialized.
It's in
not,
Mountain Dew, I hear.
necessary
Fantastic.
every day, but yeah, it's pretty toxic stuff. that.
What is the I don't want to say frustrating, because I've got to tell you, like, having conversations with you and watching some of your TikToks, like, you seem very patient with people. Like, to Len's point earlier, I think it's got to be frustrating when sometimes your brain operates on a higher level, and then trying to find ways to communicate very important information to folks who may not be able to digest it in the same way that you do. And I feel like you've found a way to do that to some degree. What, though, is like the most frustrating narrative, I guess, that you have when it comes to the climate change conversation, or the, renewable energy conversation, or even electric cars?
What's the most frustrating narrative? I think the most frustrating narrative is people. I mean, I don't want to dog shit on electric cars too much, because I do think that there's value in them. But when people try to say that solving this green energy and implementing EVs thing is easy, because it is very complicated. And when you look at the political spectrum of where people are on the right and where people are on the right and where people are on the left, mixing my hands here, it's so polarized, and people feel very strongly on each side, but I don't know that most people really understand why we haven't made significant change yet. And that's the part that's really frustrating to me, is that people are pulling so far right and so far left, but they're not talking about what the actual hurdles are in our way to making change.
Yeah.
That is really frustrating to me, because knowledge is power. And if people understood why we were not making moves on these things, they would advocate for something different, like...
Give me an example, though, of something that people, the general public, maybe doesn't understand about the process of making electric vehicles that is keeping us from maybe being more aggressive in this space. Like, what is something that most people just don't comprehend about this entire process? Like, we've talked about the batteries, and a lot of people don't understand that just that part alone can actually right now do just as much, if not more, damage to the ecosystems of a lot of places than the benefit to actually having the electric cars would do. Like what is that? The cost,
and using more energy to do those
to actually make
to manufacture them. But I heard something funny the other day that I thought was kind of crazy. California announced that they want to be completely EV by
35, right?
Yeah, by 35, and then in the same breath, they told the people who currently have electric cars not to charge them.
They can't charge their cars because of...
Pretty funny.
It's like, how do you...
Pretty funny.
How do you say that? How do you say that?
Well, because hopefully, I don't know, will the technology be better in the next... It's still, first of all, like, let's be very clear. That's 13 years away, guys. It's 2035. Let's not get our panties in a wad. They didn't say we're going completely electric by 2023.
How long ago was it when you were in your 20s?
I get it, but now we have electric cars. Yeah, but we have, can I tell you something? But we have electric cars now. So with that being said, that was just a blip on the radar back then. I do have the faith that we can, with people like Joanna and people that are focused on addressing some of these issues. But in the meantime, back to her point, this polarization between the left and the right, we may not have 13 years as a country to get there. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, technology, our scientists, our engineers will get us there if given the time to get us there. But right now, it's crazy. You literally have people screaming at each other, "You gas guzzling piece of you know what I'm saying? Like, or like, hey, like a natural disaster strikes and there are people stranded places and they're like, well, I have an electric car. or bet you wish you had a gas car now, bitch.
Yeah,
like,
driving away.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's wild, the things that we do and say to one another over things that are like, that are very serious, but at the same point in time, so outside of majority of people's wheelhouse to even comprehend. You know what I mean? Like, we've made, I think, great progress in this space, but I always go back to, like, Lenny put me up on game just in terms of the conversation about batteries in general. Like, they're toxic. Like, the material we need, lithium, to make the batteries that go in your Tesla, to mine for that is not only an arduous process, but it's limited obviously to areas that have, lithium, which can lead to other global issues, right? Now you have major superpowers fighting over the land that has these different resources and minerals and whatever. But just the process alone to get the lithium to make the battery, does it really offset the damage that gas cars is doing? Do you know what I'm saying? Like is it?
I mean, I think it does, but it takes. I've looked at some studies for this, and I think it takes an average of 6 years for an electric vehicle to give its like payback, if you will. But it's kind of, you're front loading the process basically. Mm-hmm. And when I was studying chemical engineering, you take environmental engineering classes, and one of the concepts we learned about is it's a theory that dilution is the solution to pollution. And I think I actually made a TikTok about this, that, I don't know for sure. I haven't looked into this in particular, but I don't hear anybody else talking about it. Like, is it really better if we use more CO2 up front in the process all at once in concentrated areas? Is that better than using more of it over a longer period of time in smaller, more dispersed doses where it's easier for the environment to handle it? Like mm-hmm. Your body can take some amount of arsenic, but arsenic is poisonous in large quantities. Mm-hmm. So if you have small amounts of arsenic over a long period of time, your body is going to be just fine because it has mechanisms to handle it and cleanse mm-hmm. you. And
we're not recommending.
Yeah,
we're not recommending that you have your daily dose of arsenic. That's not. Yeah, this isn't Vampire Diaries. Don't take a little, vervain every day to build up a tolerance.
That might have been a remedy in the, early 1800s.
But your body could. To your point, like the body is an amazing thing, and over time,
yeah, it can handle it. Mm-hmm. But if you take a ton of arsenic all at once, you're
gonna die.
You're not gonna live for very long. So is there some of that element with our planet that maybe the way we're doing things is better? I think that there's an argument to be made for that, but I don't see anybody looking at these concepts. People seem very So industrial engineering, we have this saying, focus on the process, not the outcome. And I see a lot of people focusing on the outcome and not the process. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I think it's very difficult to make these overarching statements when you're only looking at the outcome. Mm-hmm. Looking at the outcome, you mm-hmm. know.
Well, it's the same in business. If you want to be successful, you don't do it for the money. Mm-hmm. You're not the money will come. You have to do it for the business, for the because everything else will follow. It's the process. Yeah. It's, I'm doing it because I want to have this much money. If I do this, I'm going to have this. But that it never often works out like that. Just.
Well, but I also feel like it's kind of in this space when we have these conversations. Like I can remember being in middle school and we did a, reduce, reuse, recycle play, or it was mm-hmm. actually elementary school. So these words, because in elementary school for me was a long time ago, guys. So obviously, recycling has been on our radar. The reduction of the use of things like, water have been on our radar. Mm-hmm. Reusing things, obviously, been on our radar. But even with that, I was reading an article on these stupid grocery bag totes. Mm-hmm. And they're way worse for the environment. Mm-hmm. than actual plastic freaking bags that they give you at the grocery store. They're like, if you had any idea the amount of chemicals that go into making this plastic, if you had any idea like how long these take to biodegrade if they're thrown away.
And people throw them away.
The fact that most people rarely ever use them again. But they were like literally just the amount of water it takes to make them and the chemicals used in the process, you've completely negated the benefits to not using the smaller plastic bags mm-hmm. that the grocery store gives you. And now I love the fact that they actually have recyclable plastic. They have like biodegradable plastic. So that's actually what we use now.
Have plastic made from plants that can just,
we use litter bags. Those are my trash bags. And it makes me feel so much better, even though some of the stuff I'm putting in them is not. I'm an anal recycler though. Like if it's got even the smidgen, don't do it. Don't do it. I'm going to throw my phone at you. I'm going to throw it.
All right, I'm reframing. I'm reframing.
Like, oh my God. Oh my God.
I used to be like that, and then I learned it's such a small fraction of that stuff that actually gets recycled.
I know.
Yeah.
Not only that. There are a lot of places that are claiming to be green, the city of Hollywood, that don't mandate recycling in buildings.
Well,
So it's like I live in a condo that could easily have recycle bins on every floor,
but
and they don't mandate it now. But the city does.
but
In their
then
for
listen,
private
in
homes.
their defense, those big dumpsters that get picked up go to a recycling plant. Those trucks don't dump at a landfill. They dump in this big giant metal building, and people physically go through and recycle that trash.
I get it, but guess what? So that's cool. I'm here for that because that's creating jobs and I love it. But the process of actually separating your own crap, like, or having your kids do it while you're, in your home, is just making you cognizant of the fact that this is something that's impacting our planet. That's all. Like, because once you start doing it, it's one of those things where you become very aware of single-use plastics. You become very aware of the things that can and can't be recycled. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and
definitely.
especially if you have children, it's just creating, I think, awareness and good habits.
Behavior is so hard to change in people, though. Like, I mean, if you look at the implementation of electric vehicles, people's number one issue with them is the range. They're worried about the range.
Yeah.
Because it's a huge behavioral change that they would have to make in their life.
Actually having to plan
know?
out.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm the
probably
worst.
wouldn't
I'm
do
sure you're
that.
probably amazing. She'd have it marked down. Well, there's a
It also
charging
adds
station
time
here.
to everywhere you go.
Facts.
You
And I'm
know.
always late.
Yeah.
I go to the gas station almost daily.
Well, that's insane.
Almost daily. Well,
Drive-
Nick just
Well, yeah,
bought
I mean, you have a gas
Yeah.
guzzling Hellcat, though. So, I mean,
Made in America, though. Made in America.
Fuck yeah.
That's the points that you
But
get
Nick
for
just
that.
bought a Tesla, right? And first of all, he buys the Tesla, and they don't have a charger at the Tesla dealer to sell him, right? So he's got to order the charger. So now he's got to go.
I'm
He's
how
got
to
to go
go,
to
he's
these.
gotta go, yeah.
He's got to go to these places, and you got to go
gotta
in
go to
and
the public eye
schedule when
building
you're gonna go
It has them downstairs.
to the thing. But it's you got to sit there for 15, 20 minutes.
yeah.
Oh my
and-
God.
Listen, on a road trip, let's just
Yeah,
say
on a
you're
long
driving
road
from here to
trip.
New York, and you got to stop every 2 hours for 15 or 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Listen, if you're choosing to drive from here to New York, you probably had a little bit of time on your hands in the first place. Otherwise,
I've done it
you'd
in
get on
21
a
hours.
friggin' plane. I've done it
How
in
fast
that
were you
amount of
going?
time too. Yeah.
Speed limit.
Go on.
Yeah, right.
Questionable.
Speed limit.
Questionable.
Once again, revert back to the kind of car he's driving, and that'll tell you
Speed
how
limit.
fast he drove. And
Yeah.
he used to drive that fast in his big ass truck too. But no, that is my thing. Like when I have considered or contemplated electric vehicles, like even when I'm driving to the West Coast, I dare you to not charge that bitch before you go across Alligator Alley.
Yeah.
Like, and,
Yeah,
and then
that's
what do you
scary,
do?
right?
Like, literally, it's about a 70 mile. Is it 70-ish?
Yeah, something like that.
But with nothing. Like, there's certainly I doubt the Big Bob Swamp Safari has charging
I
stations.
love seeing Teslas on the side of the road.
Well, yeah,
That's one of my
that-
favorites.
They're a beautiful car.
Well,
and they're
and
even
then-
beautiful on the side of the road.
But what do they do? Like, does the tow company bring a charger to you? Like, or
No,
do you
they
just have
tow
to, they
you
have to
to a
tow you to a charger?
Tow you to a charging
How
station.
ridiculous! Can
Yeah.
you
Whereas
imagine?
somebody could just bring you a can of gas.
and
Just
that
5 gallons.
But that would be me. Like that would
Yeah.
1000% be running late. Like, you know what I'm saying? Oh, I've got 14 miles left. Like,
I
you
know,
know,
I
like
can
that's really
make
like
it.
20. That's
Yeah.
really like 20. I'm good. Oh, it's completely
Yeah,
empty.
there's
And
a margin of
I
error.
can, I can roll in now. When that car decides it's shutting off, boop,
That's
boop,
it.
boop, 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 boop,
Yeah.
boop. And you're sitting there trying to hit the
Can't
gas
even
net.
charge your
Yeah.
phone.
No, can't. And that'd be the other one. And my phone would be dead like
Yeah.
that. So now
And
I'd
then you're
really be
really
stuck in the
stuck.
Everglades. So, I mean, I guess, I think it's so interesting when you talk to people that really can have an analytical mind about things like for me that are based solely on passion, right? Like my perspective is really
Yeah.
my passion for the planet or for future generations, as opposed to somebody like you who's really coming from a critical thinking, analytical perspective when contemplating, some of these really difficult social conversations, right? Because you're probably looking at people's comments and in the back of your mind, you're doing your own analysis. Like, you know what I mean? You have these
Yeah.
numbers and these figures
We've
and
got some turd burgers.
yeah.
Yeah.
But and a practicality that unfortunately isn't afforded to many people when they're having these arguments. You know what I mean? Like your brain is built different. Your area of expertise allows you some, insight and some information that, I think a lot of us that want to go hard in the paint and want to like pick fights with everybody, and I'm sure you've had those people, don't necessarily have access to. So it's important that you're using your platform to really break down these other nuances, to kind of give, or I would say to arm people better when they're having an argument, because I'd rather be educated so that when somebody comes at me with their, pro gas, screw your EV car, I can counter that with I understand where you're coming from because XYZ, but this is still why I believe in the long run it's going to be a better decision for everybody. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. That's really like the heart of why I wanted to start putting this stuff out there, because people are, it's like their identity is sewn into this very passionate belief one way or the other. And I think that if we understand the problem, you can kind of detach from that a little bit and be, oh, okay, well now I have a common understanding as to why we haven't done it. Why haven't we saved the planet yet? Oh, because it's hard. Like, it's really hard. We don't have a clear answer yet on how to do it. But people really get into these very like episodes of, oh my gosh, we're gonna die. Why haven't we done anything yet? We're so stupid. And it's like, it's not about that. If these things were easy, we probably would have already done it. But there isn't a clear answer. There isn't a clear path. These issues are really complicated, and there's a lot of work to do, even on the things that we do know. Like upgrading our electrical grid. We know that, but it's like $300 billion worth of work, and who's going to pay for that?
Well, yeah, we all want to save the planet until it's coming out of our paycheck.
Yeah.
And it's like, is
It's
it
too
real? I'm going to be
expensive.
dead anyway. Like, I love when you hear that, when that's the counter to that, I'm not going to be around anyway, so who cares?
Right. Well, great.
By the time Florida floods, I'll be gone. So,
That's a very common response in Florida, I have to say.
It's very true. But, and what I think a lot of people don't realize is that if there's no money in it, it's not getting done at all.
100%.
If there's not money to be made off of it, then it's not getting done.
There's nothing driving it then.
No.
People's biggest incentive is money. Nobody really cares about the climate. Green energy is a really good market shift to target an industry that is going to grow because you can force it to through regulation for people to invest in.
And the electric
is
companies
that
like
what
it because they're going to
California's
sell more electric.
Who knows? I cannot prove or disprove this theory, but it's a theory that I have.
I mean,
partially.
there's more money. They're going to make more on electricity.
Well, my other question is, I've been reading a lot because you constantly get these ads on your social media. If you own a home and especially anywhere with a high solar number, right? Yeah. Oh, you can get a tax break, if you put solar panels on your house, all of these things. But then a lot of people, come behind it with the problem is we haven't learned how to store that energy. Like, so if I overproduce, for my house, yeah, cool. But now there's all this extra energy that we still haven't figured out how to use for the greater good. So, it's either it's kind of not that it's a moot point, but then on top of it, we're storing it in batteries, which then eventually run out. So if you're in the middle of a crisis or like some sort of, if you go through a hurricane and your panels are destroyed, you have this battery for a while that's charged because hopefully it was charged. Mm-hmm. But eventually now your battery goes kaput and now your panels are destroyed. And so there goes.
Then you pull out the gas generator.
And then you're back on the power grid, baby.
So to your point, I mean, you know what I mean? Until we can figure out a way to really store that en masse, right? Like, how do you really make great use of the biggest source of energy, which is the sun, right? Like when we think about it, like but a lot of people don't understand that. They just think put solar panels on everything. And it's like, that's cool, but it really only whatever it's attached to.
Well, they're getting better at it.
They are getting better.
But again, it's a process. We've had solar panels, like back to Joanna's point, everything takes time, and we want to see these immediate, we want cause and effect, like right now.
Yeah, we want change right now, and it's just not going to come.
At all.
Like solar panels are a great option, I think. I mean, we've had massive advances of solar panels that are incredibly efficient and incredibly environmentally friendly, but part of the issue is that the ones that are very, top-notch new technology are more on the expensive side, but people don't know the difference between a super environmentally friendly solar panel versus a Chinese-made petroleum-based solar panel that's going to go rot in a landfill and make things worse, you know?
Yeah.
Did you just say petroleum-based solar
Yes,
panel?
that's what they are.
They put petroleum in there. Yeah. If you get a cheaply made solar panel, they're not environmentally friendly.
Like, do you hear like the irony, like the
Yeah.
hypocrisy in that? Like,
But that
green,
it's a green energy
renewable
market.
energy
They can put
made
the green
from a
energy
fossil
stamp
fuel
on it, and then boop, it's green energy. It's green.
Oil is for products what high fructose corn syrup is for food.
Wow.
Yeah, goes
That's
everything.
everything.
So it's pretty interesting. But solar panels in particular, well, solar and wind energy, you know, like everybody loves them so much, right? But this is such a key point where the infrastructure really comes into place because you can hook them up to the electrical grid.
Okay.
You can.
Wind I knew could be really useful, but you
Yeah.
need a lot of
You need a lot of it, and you know,
and a lot of land.
Yes,
too.
That's something that nobody ever talks about is, you know, we're trying to save the environment from this humongous impact, but solar and wind energy have one of the biggest physical footprints of any type of energy that we can make. So how much of the environment are we really saving if we're stacking hundreds of thousands of acres of solar panels over what would have been a gorgeous forest or field or, you know, whatever it was going to be? Like, that certainly has some kind of effect to the environment, and you're kind of screwing over the wildlife you were trying to save.
Well, and that I know has been a big issue with even the wind energy. A lot of those windmills have been having negative effects, not just on the people in their communities, whether it's the droning noise that they make, or like
birds.
Yeah, but then
the
even
birds
wildlife.
thing, I think, is blown a little bit out of proportion because if you look at like how many birds are killed by like a house cat every year,
Yeah.
it's like
that
2.5 million.
It's like that thing
I'm
that
talking
just happened
about-
here for the last 2
But I'm
years.
talking about more like I'm talking about more when it comes to wildlife, like kind of like building a border wall.
But the other
through
thing,
migration patterns,
the
right?
other-
Like putting up a bunch of windmills where animals would normally be, you know, moving ground or you know, migrating can be a distraction. It can be a deterrence.
Yeah.
It can offset, you know, mating and
Yeah, certainly it has some kind
I don't
of
wanna stop mating.
impact, and maybe we
We
don't
need
know
wild
what it is
animals. They
because
need
we
to
haven't
mate.
done it. Yeah, we want to see little cute baby birds in the wild.
I love and bears.
Joanne brought up another point, though, is that the consistency of those types of electric. You still need other electric to subsidize when it's not windy.
Yeah. So I don't know how much you know about how our electrical grid works, but we basically have a daily dose of electricity that we use called our base load. Like that's the minimum that we try to keep.
Oh, I could do something with that.
To go into supply and
Please
demand.
don't.
Do not do it. Do not do it. He's trying to make a sexual joke, everybody.
Yes, in case you didn't.
I don't know what you're talking
I
about.
didn't catch it. But around like 6 a.m. in the morning to 8 a.m., we have a peak. We have a higher demand for energy. And then when people get home, we have a higher demand for energy. So our electrical grid is very, very sensitive. So it runs on a certain frequency. In the U.S., it's 60 hertz. In the Europe, it's 50 hertz. And you have to be within like 1% of this hertz rating for the equipment not to become damaged. And this is, you know, billions and billions and billions of dollars infrastructure. We want to take care of it. So it's very sensitive. You need supply and demand basically have to be equal at almost all times. So when you start putting in variable sources of energy that you know, they're producing energy maybe when you don't need it, it's not helpful. It's not helpful, which is why the battery banks come into place. Is that, you know, okay, if the wind is blowing at noon, but we don't need the energy at noon, we can save it for later. But then that's going into, well, the batteries are pretty toxic to make, and we're going to need a lot of them in order to store this. So what is the overall benefit really in a lot of these areas? And then there's the fact that the highest potential for wind and solar energy is in the United States. And that's not where the majority of people are. Majority of people lived in coastal cities, you know. So the infrastructure that you have to to run to get that immense amount of power if we were really going to create like solar and wind hearts in the center of the United States is massive. That's a ton of high voltage transmission wires that we would have to run. And high voltage transmission wires are dangerous too. You know, they have to be kept a certain width apart, and there's danger of arc flash if there's too much energy in the system. You know, it can run off and strike a tree, and that's how a lot of California fires start. Is, you know, trees fall on power lines.
Are they also responsible for illness? Am I making this up? Have we proven this?
Well, you can walk out here under those power lines. Right?
It would take a little time. That's why I don't live there.
See,
right out here under the power lines with a fluorescent bulb, and it will glow.
Like
they
cancer
they
and
emit an EMF. I think the research is kind of out to lunch, because if we're going to say that EMFs are proven to give people cancer, then we have to admit that a lot of the technology that we're around constantly does that. So I think that there's a lot of incentive for us to look the other way on that one. So I don't know that we really
get the real data.
See a clear answer. Yeah.
Got you. It just, I hate to say it, but this is why people don't like talking to people like Joanna.
Sorry.
And I say that with all the love in the world. No, it just because it really does sometimes feel like we're on a hamster wheel, right?
Yeah,
like
it's depressing.
It's frustrating because, you know, we have all these hard deadlines, right? That the masterminds of the universe kind of, you know, continue to throw at us. Like, we have to be this by 2025 and we have to be this by 2027. Or, you know, if you've seen Day After Tomorrow, that's what the world's going to look like. You know, like Hollywood has done these movies and people are making reference points and we're using them as reference points. But it's like, you know, it took time to get us to this place. It's going to take time to get us out of it. And I do have faith that, you know, the great minds of the world like yours will figure it out. But I go back to my earlier sentiment. Will society allow them the grace period to do it? You know what I mean? Before we just implode on ourselves. Like, that's, I think, the scariest thing about it, because this is a big issue. And like you said it, you know, people love to come for you and tell you don't know what the you're talking about. And you're
love
an idiot
to do that. You know who you are. I know your usernames.
But it's funny. One of my favorite videos that you did, and it was a recent one, was the one where you were breaking down, you know, I'm going to just say the cost of energy, right? Not financial cost, but what different types of power use as far as resources go.
Everything has pros and cons.
To be efficient, yeah. And somebody was telling you, oh, like, I don't know if it was a reference point to, you know, electric vehicles or if it was steam energy, you know.
Yeah. Somebody made a comment. They were saying, so I had brought up the fact that when you charge an electric vehicle, you lose about 10% of the energy in the charge. And then when you just discharge the battery, you lose approximately 10%. And it varies between 5 to 20% depending on how, like, the life of what your battery is. Because
well, like in a cell phone, the more you charge it, the longer you have it, the less it holds a charge.
Right.
And so I would assume your electric vehicle operates
it's
somewhat the same.
The exact same
right?
way. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a oxidation reduction reaction, and basically when you charge the battery, you're giving the electron back to the oxidizing agent in the battery, and that resets it so that it can happen over and over again. But in very simple terms, every time you reverse the reaction, it's a little less perfect than it was the first time. So over time, there's only so much of it you can reverse that still is usable material.
Gotcha.
You can still, like, if you just took all the components apart and remade the battery and made it perfect again, it would still work, but it's not capable in the state that it's at. But there is an amount of energy lost. Even your cell phone just sitting there is, even if you turn it off, it's losing energy because there's only so much we can do to stop that chemical reaction from going forward. It's called phantom discharge. So your EV, you know, sitting in your garage for too long without being charged is going to lose energy.
Yeah. Like, oh, when I parked it had a full charge. Now it's at half.
Right.
Well, it happens.
Right. There's a lot of energy that's lost in the process. And that's also something I don't think a lot of people realize, is that you're putting the charge into this vehicle and, oh, guess what's charging it? The coal power plant that has 33% efficiency, which is very similar to your combustion engine, which is where the comparison came into place. Is this person was saying, oh, well, a steam turbine engine is 80% efficient. It's like, okay, well, just the steam turbine is one part of a multi-part system. So great, we can capture 80% of the energy from the boiling water to create motion in the turbine. But how much energy did we capture from the original source of energy, which was burning the coal or natural gas or
to boil the water,
whatever it is? Yeah.
Well, like in Florida,
there's so much more to it.
We use nuclear power, right?
We have.
I mean, I know we have Turkey Point. Like we have a big nuclear power plant.
Yeah, we have a nuclear power plant.
So if all of South Florida were to decide tomorrow to get EVs and we're all plugging in, that power is probably coming from the nuclear power plant, which we know creates tons of toxic discharge as it's producing power, right? That is the problem. That's why it's not supposed to get salt water. I mean, there's a lot of...
Yeah, but I think nuclear is probably the cleanest energy burning, right?
Yeah, it's one of the cleanest energies we have, and actually statistically it's one of the safest too, but it has such a bad rap because... a lot of the nuclear waste.
Yeah.
I mean, all of our ships in our Navy are run by nuclear reactors.
But what my point wasn't even that. My point was just we're never, like, when we plug things in, I think the average person just thinks the electricity is there.
Yes.
Doesn't think about that it's coming from somewhere else. So even in your electric vehicle, right, you still have to use some sort of source to put the power into it, which we are not far along enough in that process to definitively say that just having this car is doing monumentally productive work towards lowering.
We're far enough along to know that some of the energy grids in this country can't handle a shit ton of electric cars, like in California. I think Florida, just like most of the stuff in Florida, the power grid is exceptional. So,
but isn't that how, as you say that isn't that also because FPL is also like a monopoly and
it's everything's a monopoly in this country.
They have the money to invest and make sure that they're great, and we have a lot of natural disasters here, I don't know, hurricanes, so it makes sense.
We do have one of the best electric grids in Florida, and we also have one of the lowest electrical rates in Florida.
I watched that FPL commercial last night, so thank you
true.
For regurgitating
it's true if you can look it up. I mean, no one ever thought about that kind of stuff in here. We've never had rolling blackouts. We've never had, we've been without power for 2 weeks because hurricane comes and knocks down the wires. But
so it behooves us to have.
Yeah, it's been rebuilt 50 times in the last 50 years.
And our teams go to a lot of other places because they're so adept at what they do. But Texas found out what it was like to have their own power grid, didn't they?
Yeah, well.
Not really.
Yeah, it's interesting. Texas does have their own power grid. We have the East power grid, the West power grid, and then Texas, and then Alaska has their own too. But a lot of the power outages are not actually from a lack of power. It's because something in the infrastructure breaks down. And another benefit to the current power plants that we have rather than renewable energy is if a power plant goes down, the steam turbine normally has enough momentum to keep power going for a couple of minutes to allow the operators to course correct to keep the power online. And if we lose that ability, I mean, that's they don't have any reaction time at all. As soon as something breaks, the power is gone, and you can see the effects of that. Like this is I think my biggest qualm about electric vehicles is that we have such a broken down electrical grid in some areas, and when you turn off the power, you can see in places like Texas, like people die. This isn't just like, oh well, we don't, it's dark, let's go get a flashlight. Like people rely on electricity to run their oxygen tanks. People,
it's like turning off the heat in Minnesota.
In the
winter.
It can kill people. This isn't really something that we want to
play with.
Yeah, we don't want to. Am I allowed to swear?
Yes.
Fuck it.
Sorry.
Man, the fuck up. This isn't like a fuck around and find out thing.
Yeah.
Like we don't want to do that with our.
Oh, it took you like 52 minutes to get that out.
And Texas,
fucking Midwest.
Texas learned that. Yeah. God damn it. Texas learned that the hard way.
Well, fudge.
But you hit on it though too when you said when something in the infrastructure goes, and over the past few years infrastructure has become such a buzzword in this country, and there's a lot of people I don't think that can really wrap their brain around what infrastructure actually is or looks like, but it's it's perfect. It's in every part of daily life that we tend to take for granted, right? And it's one of those things where if not paid attention to, a la Texas, when they were trying to cut corners and cut costs, people die, to your point. And so that's the only other thing too, is that if communities are left, because again, to make sweeping change, it would have to be sweeping change. It can't, I don't think, necessarily be one community here and one community here and one community there. And with that being said, if people are out here trying to either monopolize, because like if there's no money in it, we ain't doing it. And we realize that there was also money in cutting corners. So Texas wanted this whole independent, we have our own power grid because we're Texas and we can secede at any point in time. Yes, I just said that. Because we know they've wanted to for a while now.
Steers and queers.
But again, when there were no problems, people decided now's the time. I'm going to take this extra $1 million and stick it in my pocket instead of going out there and checking on that, wire or that line or whatever plant that is. And when they really needed it, they were completely fucked. And that's my biggest fear, is that as we get into these new phases and people are looking for opportunities to monopolize or to make money, that this will be, and once again, the folks footing the bill for it, the citizens of Texas or the people of Florida, even though FPL doesn't, I'm not mad at FPL right now, will be the ones that end up on the short end of the stick because, our politicians will be in Cancun with their families. Ted Cruz.
Yeah, that was, I definitely normally consider myself friendly to both sides, but that was a moment where I was like, man, that was a really shitty thing to do. Like, abandon your people.
Constituents, your people. Yeah.
Your people, you're their leader.
You're supposed to be their voice. Even if he wasn't in Texas,
Yeah.
he should have been in Washington advocating on their behalf.
Yeah.
I need FEMA there. I need people there. I need boots on the ground. We need the National Guard, whatever the case may be. I have elderly people that are literally in their homes without heat, without oxygen, that are dying. You know what I'm saying? And no, he was making sure his wife and his kids got to
You want to hear the
Cancun
crazy
safely.
thing? Even though that happens regularly with politicians, people still support them.
But are you ready?
Optics are everything. It's only what you see.
Well, no,
It's only what you see.
I said it on the radio because we dragged him to filth. And somebody had the nerve to come. She just laughed. You're so funny. I was like, I'm not laughing, ma'am. I said, how would you feel if that was Marco Rubio or Rick Scott or any of these other people that represent us? And we had a Category 5 bearing down on us here in Florida, and they decided to go to Europe on vacation. Right? Like, well, that's their choice. I said, bullshit. They work
not a
for you.
regular job.
I was like,
Yeah,
they
not
work
the
for
same.
you. And this is the problem because we don't hold them accountable. We don't hold their feet to the flame. We're not saying that was fucked up. This is why they think they can do this shit. I was like, no, we pay their salary and he should be here or they should be here advocating on behalf of all of us. And that was the thing that bothers the shit out of me. And it's also why I think we should all get to vote for senators. There's only 100 of them. And I think that everybody should get a say in that shit because what Ted Cruz does and votes for in Washington affects me in Florida, and that shit's starting to bother me. Sorry.
I feel you.
Especially since he doesn't even care about the people in Texas. I know he really doesn't give a fuck about Florida.
No.
So, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, and I don't know, would that put a
Is that
little
a hot
pressure
point
on
for
it?
you?
What?
You got a little excited there.
I didn't know because I feel a way about
Fashion.
senators right now.
Ooh.
I feel a way, like the Senate is, in my personal opinion, the
Can't
most
get any farther
powerful
away.
100 people in the country, along with
feeling
the
fire
people that are
over
right above them, whose pocket they're in.
Well, here's the point.
So
If we can all find the middle, we'll be the most powerful people in the country.
I think more people are in the middle than they really realize.
Yeah.
They just don't
They're
know
scared.
enough to know they're in the middle.
They're scared to say they're in the middle. I see people. I was at my son's football game last night, and people are like scared to tell you how they feel. They're fucking scared.
Because it can destroy your life.
They're like
you know?
in fear of telling you whether they're right or left or indifferent or if they believe this or if they believe that. They're scared to tell you. So not only has some things in this country divided us this far apart, but it's put people in such fear of speaking their mind that when someone does, they call you a fucking lunatic.
I also feel like a lot of the people in the middle feel dejected because they don't feel represented. So like when you have a political party that forces you into a corner one way or the other and you don't necessarily agree on everything, you feel underrepresented, which means you don't feel engaged in your government. You don't feel engaged, you know what I mean? Because there's a lot of people that are in the middle that are, you know, if you have the conversation with them, they're like, but what good is it going to do? Like, you know, they don't, like, I don't want to vote because like, I don't feel like I have a candidate to vote for, like, you know, because this person I agree with maybe on economics, but I don't necessarily agree with them on everything, you know, culturally or socially. So it's a frustrating place to be at. And the folks that do understand the system, you know, it's hard not to get fed up because like I'm over here going, we have the power, they work for us. But a lot of people don't understand that and can't, you know, wrap their brain around the fact that at the end of the day, if we all came together, you know, but right now we have people sitting in Tallahassee and you guys have people, you know, in your state, obviously, that are making decisions willy-nilly. Like there's a lot of shit passing through state governments that nobody's voting on. And that's the other shit that's annoying me. It's like once they get there, the next thing you know, it's them and their little posse passing this bill, passing that bill. The governor's all of a sudden writing referendums and shit. And I'm like, hold up. Like, first of all, what is that? I had no say in this. I live in this state. I'm paying your salary. Like, relax.
I'll give you a perfect example of it. In 2014, weed was on the ballot for the first time here. And the governor's race was Scott and Christ. And Florida's the only state, by the way, in the country that requires 60% to pass.
I love
a
that.
Wow.
constitutional amendment in the state.
Okay.
Or in the United States, the only one that has 60%. So
What's the average?
average what?
Like percentage to
51,
51.
right? 51, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah, it's got to be over 50%.
Well, I don't even, or is it just the majority? Like, I mean,
No, I don't think. Well, the majority would
well, it depends. I mean,
Yeah,
still break down to 50%.
No, but I didn't know if there were like three different options. You know what I'm saying? Like if you only needed like, you know, in some, you can win a Senate race only getting 40% of the vote. So if
Well,
there's
that's because
multiple-
there's more than one candidate.
Yeah.
So it
spreads
boils
the
down
pie
to
out.
on a constitutional amendment. I think it boils down to you either yes or no.
Even though there's a bazillion other
you're at
things
50%.
factored in, but yeah.
But we missed by like 1%. It was like 58.9% of the people voted yes. And Charlie Crist lost by a few percent. Rick Scott went into office and he immediately wrote a piece of legislation to legalize marijuana in the state, but with these restrictions.
He privatized, didn't he?
He
Like,
basically, yes. It was an 180-page application to apply for the license, and they broke it down into quadrants, and it was seed to sale. So basically, he broke the state into 5 pieces, and then
you had to apply for one
huge
of
companies
Yep.
applied for that one section, and once they got that approved
They
for that
owned
section,
everything.
they owned everything in that section. So when it passed legally 4 years later, when it passed by vote, it was a nightmare because these people already had the license for Dade County and Broward and Palm Beach.
And so now you had to deal directly with them.
You had to
in
deal
order
directly with them and or, you know,
Well, you saw what just
there was a big
happened
fight.
recently too, and I don't know how much you even care about this topic, Joanna. Sorry,
No, it's
but
okay.
your statistical and your analytical mind might be able to like give
Yeah,
us
we
a different
often
perspective.
go off on tangents.
But the Florida Board of Health or whatever it is just set limitations for medical marijuana. Did you see this?
Yes.
Without consulting like the foremost medical authorities in the state.
Should be appropriate.
So basically, they set a 2.5 ounce limit on medical marijuana per month. And if you know anything about weed,
That's like nothing.
there's a lot of people that are dealing with legitimate chronic pain or dying of cancer that can blow through 2.5 in a day. Like, are you kidding me?
And 2.5 ounces in a day, you ain't getting off the couch.
Yeah, but that's some of these. That's some of these
Ever.
people. Like.
Wait,
I
is
mean-
that a lot of marijuana? I don't smoke marijuana.
2.5 ounces isn't, but not for an entire month. It's not.
Oh,
No.
okay.
It's not at all. Like
Okay.
there's
Yeah.
plenty of people that will in no way, shape, or form
Yeah.
manage their pain. And the doctors that deal with this are absolutely baffled and outraged that this random group of people, once again, put in their position by the governor for whatever reason, have now been able to make this sweeping legislation that will impact their patients' lives very negatively. And they're like, you didn't even consult us. And this seems to be what's happening more and more and across the country. And it's even, I'm sure, impacting, green energy, renewable resources, things of that nature. When you have people who don't have any idea what they're doing, passing legislation one way or the other, right? Whether it's right leaning or left leaning, it can be so detrimental.
These are political science majors. Like, these are the people who were smoking weed, like doing shit during college. They were not doing anything. They had no homework. They didn't have to go to class on Friday.
They had.
Or now they're people
I sense a little bit of
No, or now they're people that sit on your church board with you. You know what I mean? They're even less qualified than the poli-sci major. They're just, there's some, you fellowship with them on Sundays and say, peace be with you.
But
come sit on this board.
These are the people running the country. Some of the lowest. I mean, this is gonna
put it out there. Maybe
I should.
We're far enough in. Maybe they'll have stopped watching.
Yeah,
by now.
they're done already. Sober.
This is kind of some of the, like, no offense, political science majors, but this is some of the lowest bar of education. And the most far removed from most functioning society and progressing things forward in analytics. And those are the people that are running the country. And, like, I understand there are, there's, like, an apprehension to let scientists and engineers run the country because they tend to treat people like numbers, and people don't like to be treated like a number. And I completely understand why that is. But if we can make things better for everyone by treating them like a number, wouldn't you rather be treated like a number and have a better life than be,
treated like a person?
Yeah, like, oh, your feelings, yay, we made you feel good, but you didn't actually do anything to improve my life. You just made me feel better for an instant because you said you cared.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a word for that.
Go
the
ahead.
pussification of America.
Gotta say it at least once an episode. Lenny, was there anything else in particular? Because obviously we can have conversations, and I love, Joanna, that you can just roll with the punches about anything. But in particular, from her videos or conversations that you guys have had that you really wanted to touch on.
I think she kind of covered a lot of what we talked about, and it's really just making people understand that there's so much to this issue that it's not just buy an electric car and the world is saved.
Yeah, and all of a sudden we've added 10,000 years to planet Earth.
Yeah. It's, and like I said before, we don't know if the planet would be doing this if we weren't here or if we were still in the fucking Stone Ages. The planet might be heating up on its own to some certain extent.
Okay.
Not to mention, one natural disaster can erase all of this heat in a day. In a day.
Yeah, I mean, Pompeii was like a little volcano burp, and there goes a city. Yeah. Like, it's pretty dire.
But I guess, I'm going to ask the quintessentially controversial question. Do you think climate change is real?
I think it's real, but I think that... And I mean, I'm not a climate change scientist, so everybody should do their own research and see what they believe.
Statistically,
but I think that there are a lot of factors to look at, and if you're a good data analytics, professional, you understand that a univariate analysis where you're only looking at one variable and correlating it to another, or saying that there's a causacious link, is not very helpful, because often there's multiple different inputs that you need to be considering, and lots of information that's contributing to the results you're seeing. Like you can see a very strong data link between ice cream being sold in the summer and murders. But do we think that ice cream...
No, we think the heat is probably... The heat there is probably the common denominator. People get a little crazy in the summer with the added heat, and they also want ice cream because it's fucking hot.
That would be why they keep jails at like 68 degrees.
Is it really?
Yeah, it like
I love that.
tempers people.
Well, no, I mean, I know that for a fact, even in Florida where it's hot all the time, we see a marked increase in violence in the summer. And people will say it's just there's a level of agitation that comes, and people are usually at a
I'm going to
breaking
use
point
that next time somebody says,
quicker.
what's the matter with you?
It's
fucking hot out.
Yeah.
Exactly. But no, like I think that's a fantastic point. Yes, Nestor, I saw you write it. I was trying
We're going to ask the
I
question.
was trying to low key nod my head. I'm just laughing. Our producer, director, photographer, videographer wrote something on our magic board back there. With this particular subject, whether it's climate change, and I love the fact that you've spoken repeatedly about trying to find your way to the middle, with issues. How or why or in what ways do we need to man the fuck up when it comes to this? Whether it's science-based as a community, like what does that look like in your mind?
I think the biggest thing is that people have to let go of what their perception of right and wrong is and just look at it as a logical problem and look at are we doing the right thing? Like maybe we don't need to focus on an outcome, but what is this outcome going to produce long term over a long period of time? Which is where I see batteries failing us, at least with the current technology that we have. There are other alternative technologies that are coming out that you can see over a longer period of time will benefit us more, but there's a lot of energy and time and money invested into this new battery technology. So it's like a steam engine. Good luck stopping it now that people see this all in there. But really just detaching the emotion from it is where people need to man the fuck up.
I like she put a little bass in her voice. And personally, like outside of that, if I were to ask you when you see ManTFUp, like what does that mean to you?
To me, it means overcoming your fears. It's really funny because Lenny like posted all over my social media. I want you to come on the podcast. Come on the podcast. And I was like, I'm just going to ignore this comment. I'm going to pretend I didn't see it. And then he messaged me somewhere else.
He was like, I know you saw my comments.
He was like, I really want you to come on the podcast. And I was chicken shit. I was like, man, I don't know that this is the fight I want to pick. I don't know if this is the battle that I want to champion. I don't know if I'm the right person.
How do you feel now?
I feel like I do feel very empowered now. I do feel very excited to be here, and I'm so happy that I came. But I think the biggest takeaway that I have gotten from this is that I don't think that everybody is involved in the conversation has to be a rocket scientist. There are a lot of people that are valid with the level of knowledge that they have, and they can contribute something. Maybe I'm not investing the time to go invent a new battery that is more green than what we have. But I can use myself as kind of a social butterfly hybrid engineer to communicate to people that don't understand some of these principles why this problem is so hard, to try to cool down some of the emotions that are happening.
It's an invaluable conversation, and it's such an incredible use of what can often be described as silly platform. When we talk about TikTok and when we talk about Instagram and people have found so many divisive ways to use these things, or so many useless ways to use it, that I love that you have found a way to connect with people on something that is so important to us as a global community, right? But also to hopefully curbing, to your point, some of the disillusion people have with the conversation, and also some of the frustration that folks who don't necessarily have, the scientific or the technical background, find with why we haven't made more progress. Like it's so dope. And then on top of it, the fact that there's so many kids in this space, like that's invaluable, because they're not wasting 10 years being angry and frustrated, and now they can actually focus in and go, well, hey, if I want to do my part to change the earth, right? We've already got Greta Thunberg. We've already got her out here shaming celebrities for taking their private planes and plane training and automobiling it all over the world, right? Like,
Yeah. She's
walking
an
if she-
interesting character.
walking if she has to. See, I like that face. I'm not going to drag a teenager.
Yeah,
But
no, I get it.
But I do become fearful when I think of that because, you know, something we were talking about was just this whole metaverse thing. And I was just frustrated because I want people not to be in their house all the time, right? And I want people to actually travel and explore.
Yeah, well, it's not good for you. You know, it's not good for your psychology. We can see like what the effects of cramming people into their houses had with the pandemic and how, you know, drug use has skyrocketed. People don't have friends anymore. Like that's an epidemic.
Yeah.
People not having
but
friends and being lonely. Like,
Are you ready, though? Back to both of your points. If it's not making money, right, it's of no interest.
yeah.
Were we so upset by this because the powers that be were not far enough along in their process? Like, the metaverse wasn't prepared for pandemic, right? Now you fast forward a few years, they've got the
Yeah.
technology, they're set up. Now we are promoting people
Yeah.
staying in their house
like,
with their VR goggles
"Damn it,
on.
we weren't
We're finding
ready."
ways for folks to work, interact, to make money off of this virtual world where now don't buy your clothes in real life, buy those Jordans in the metaverse so that now when you walk outside in person you can look homeless, but in the metaverse you're fly.
Well, you know.
Like, no, but this is like today and being around you people
Here's
has me bugged out
you
about
know,
this.
like on a cattle farm when they ship the cattle off, they have these long
Yeah, the corrals.
fences that just go down into this little tiny hole at the end of the funnel.
Yeah.
We're in the middle of that fucking walkway right now.
But am I wrong in thinking that, though? Like, this could be the start of, like, yes, we all complained about being locked in our houses, but people are about to do it voluntarily.
How about half
With
the
the
fucking
metaverse.
people want to stay home now?
But
Yeah,
that's
a lot of
They
people.
fucking
that's
want to
what
stay
I'm
home.
saying. It's wild.
I'm not coming
man.
back in the office. Fuck you.
It's-
Find another job.
It's
Yeah.
absolutely
No, it's so true.
crazy town. And like, I'm just thinking about this, and I was using it in relation to, like, don't tell me you went to see the pyramids unless you've got a passport stamp to prove it. But you'll be able. Well, my passport did get stamped in the metaverse. You know what I mean? No. I want the one from the U.S. passport office,
Yeah.
the little blue book with all the pages inside. You know, but I feel like this will become, you know, and who knows? Are they going to pivot this conversation and say, well, this is how we save the earth. This is how
They're going to use every marketing trick.
you know what I
in
mean?
the book.
This is how we dilute the
And-
carbon footprint. You can still see the pyramids without getting on a plane.
Right.
You can still go to Machu Picchu without doing irreparable damage to one of, you know, the wonders of the world by trekking up and down it. You can hike Mount Everest
Yeah.
without leaving oxygen tanks littering, you know, strewn down the sides and
Have-
poisoning the water for the people who
Have you heard
live in the
about
valleys below.
The cows that they put the VR headsets on
Oh,
to
Jesus.
like make them happier and produce more milk. It's just like that, right?
Yeah.
Now we're a cow. Now we're a happy cow. and,
What do your
you know, we
statistics
don't
say
have to
about
do
that?
any of
Have you
stuff. Yeah, I have
Did you come up with the system for that? Like, let me. Who are the engineers that figured that one out?
I don't know,
Like,
that's a pretty hilarious thing, right? But I mean,
Yes.
the behavioral, there is such a thing as like behavioral engineering.
shut up!
Oh yeah,
We
oh,
talked
yeah.
about it with Grant. It's called the Manchurian
Oh
Candidate.
God!
Yeah. Like if specifically like in a manufacturing line, if you have an operator that's doing a repetitive task for, you know, such amount of time, they will have a learning curve when they first start where they will, you know, suck at the task and then they'll get better and better and better. But then after a long period of time, they're actually go down. And that's a good time to swap them out for somebody else.
Gotcha.
But yeah, like repetitive tasks like that are not stimulating your brain will optimize its function to do as little as possible. Our brains are programmed to be lazy.
Work.
to
What is
conserve
it? Work
energy.
smarter, not harder, or whatever.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
like minimal output for maximum.
Yeah. But
Gain
that's,
or whatever.
I think part of the metaverse to me is almost a dangerous concept because
Almost.
it gives people that. It gives people a shortcut to life satisfaction. It's a
Oh, I'm
proxy.
famous in the metaverse. Oh, I'm rich in the metaverse. Oh, I've traveled the world in the metaverse.
Right, and real accomplishments are going to start to mean less and
Yeah.
less.
I bought my Harvard degree
Then
in the
comes the
metaverse.
at-home IV nutrition plan.
You're not lying. You're not lying. Oh my God, I can't. This is like I feel like I'm spiraling.
Your chair will exercise
I'm
you
spiraling. I'm just no.
as you
I
get
can't.
your nutrition from
I
this
can't.
bag.
All we
keep
were gonna
your-
talk about was batteries. Damn it. No, but like I said,
Do you
Joanna.
need a Xanax?
Yeah,
We
I
have
need
pills
one. I
for
should have
that.
had one prior to.
We
You
have
know,
happy pills.
I would have
A
smoked
substitute
weed,
for
but
real happiness.
but I would have needed too much. Like I would have, and then now I've
More
tapped
than 2
out.
ounces?
I would have needed more than 2.5 ounces for this conversation, and I'm not allowed that in Florida anymore. So hey, maybe pass me some of your pills. No, but incredible conversation. Obviously, you're always welcome here. Is there anything that you would like to leave the people with, like something that you've seen, question wise, or just
Your fans.
yeah, your fans?
Yeah. Hi,
with-
everybody. So I guess there's 2 things I want to highlight. So I'm so thankful that you guys brought me on. I'm so glad you convinced me to come because I was chicken shit and I needed to man up a bit,
There you
and
go.
kind of grow in my own confidence and my abilities for that. But I really want to thank my fans. So like fans, they're my friends. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't consider them
Yeah.
fans, I guess. They're just people that like to hear me talk, and thank you so much for that. But I did not think that talking about technical issues would be so popular, and I think that that is so cool. Like prior to maybe like a month ago, I was one of those people who's just like, oh, I'll just do a fun little dance. I'll do like a cute transition from looking like shit to pretty.
Yep.
Like
What's the trending audio right now? Let me find it.
Exactly. And I, in little spurts, have been like, I see this conversation happening on social media, and I really want to participate in it, but I don't think that anybody's going to care. And I put one video out there about electric vehicles, and it got a huge hit. And I kept putting more out, and it kept getting huge hits. And I'm just so incredibly inspired that there are so many people out there that are interested in learning about this stuff, and they're helping me learn too. There are people out there who are much smarter and more experienced than me that are contributing to the conversation, but it's starting a conversation, and that is so cool. It's so cool to get to be in the middle of that. So I just want to thank everybody in this short period of time for like making this the place that we're having it, because I just think that's so cool.
And you're also a woman in STEM, and I want to point that out because we need so many more women in these fields of science, technology, engineering.
She's also a
mathematics.
singer.
I know. And she's beautiful. So, yes, you can do and be it all. It's not one or the other, despite the fact that society would really like to believe that it is. You're either beautiful and stupid or smart and ugly and not and you're blowing all of those kind of stereotypes out of the water. But it's so cool to see, a woman in STEM who can break it down and who can be conversational and who can have an impact and, again, inspire other young, women to know that they
How about
can
young
do it
people?
too.
How about young people?
No, I'm specifically talking about women right now, Len, because literally in those fields, women are like a super minority. Like, what is
I don't think they're a super minority.
in STEM?
I don't know.
They're like 10% of the entire STEM
It is
field.
small.
But that's-
It is small, but it's kind of by behavioral. It's by behavioral patterns. Women tend to be more social creatures. They tend to be more caring, so they go into more caregiving roles if they are going into a science. Whereas men are more hands-on and tend to have a higher capability of 3D thinking, so they tend to go into fields that are more engineering.
I cannot wait to have your friend Harley on.
I just
Wait.
like the
Her
fact that
social perspective.
she's teaching people on social media
I
that
get
it's
that.
okay to be fucking intelligent.
Yeah, but
That's
Lenny,
the, and educated.
And I can appreciate that, but the fact that you just literally tried to minimize and tried to like mansplain to me to expand and include everybody in this, like you have no idea what representation means. So she's talking about behavioral patterns, but yes, where women are more social creatures, we're taught to be that way. We're encouraged to be that way. Like be outgoing, smile, resting bitch face.
What's wrong with that?
Was not created for men. It was created for women who sometimes feel or seem disengaged in a stupid mansplaining conversation.
I mean, it is
resting bitch face.
It is partially biology too, because our brains are different. We have more linguistics in our brain, and our limbic system is different. But to your point, though, like because more males do go into that field, I don't know that, and it's not all male engineers.
No,
women engineers I think tend to be less accepted in a lot of places. Like when I was in school studying chemical engineering, and I'm not gonna say which school I was in because I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but I literally had one of the professors sit me down in his office and say, Joanna, you have to pick. You can't be pretty and smart.
What did I just say?
Yeah.
What did I just say?
He literally said that to me, and
oh my God.
He was clearly hitting on you.
Wild.
I didn't know what to say back. I was in my early 20s. I didn't have my moxie on yet. I was just like, so like, what do you, like, which one are you saying I'm not then? Like, do you want me to go like carve out my eyes and then I can be smart? Or
can I tell you something like that? I say that because to me, just as a woman, that's been my experience, right? And I'm lucky because I have incredible men. And Lenny, as much as I'm riding Lenny in this, wow.
Oh.
You get the point.
Yeehaw.
He didn't even have to say anything.
As much as I know, this is what happens when you work with people like Lenny all the time. But like as much as I'm being hard on Lenny, in this episode,
or is Lenny being
he's
hard
very
on you.
Absolutely not. We will never get to that place, let me tell you. Ever.
Never say never.
No, I will say never. Ever. Ever with exclamation points.
Statistically speaking.
That's the best line of the day. But no, Len is extremely, extremely supportive of intelligent women, as I'm sure you have figured out, and he lives for it and he finds it very attractive. So like that's Lenny's not necessarily in that space where he's like, intimidated by intelligent women. Unlike a lot of men. And again, I'm not a man dragger. That's not what I'm here for. But this is just my lived experience and the experience of a lot of my friends. But the fact that a professor actually used those words to you as just the amount of validation you just gave me by saying that, because like I said, I use that analogy a lot just because it's something that I feel. Mm-hmm. But the fact that a man actually said it to you means it's real. And so to what you were saying before, this is why
he was hitting on her.
It's so that doesn't make it okay.
Probably.
That doesn't make it all right, and that's not flattering. Like, guess what? We don't want to be hit on by everybody, and by doing it with a backhanded compliment like, oh, hey, you're beautiful and smart, but pick one. Like, no, you're a fucking douchebag.
Yeah.
And you have no business shaping young people's minds and careers, because really, if she wasn't as strong as she is, that could have been extremely limiting and put you off from this entire field.
Oh, definitely. The only thing I think that kept me in at that point, because when I went into school, I mean, this is like a whole nother can of worms, but when I went into school, I was very unprepared. Like, I was very sheltered when I was younger. So, and I didn't have a tough time in high school. I put very little effort in and did
very well.
Very well.
Yeah.
I didn't have to learn the skill to study. So going to college was an adjustment for me. And, I ended up changing schools. I ended up switching majors, and I racked up a lot of debt. And that moment for me was like, wow, this person is basically saying that I shouldn't be doing this. I don't belong here. I shouldn't do it. But I had so much student loan debt, it was like, well, I
don't have a choice.
Yeah, I can't do anything else. Like, if I get a general degree in, underwater
Who's paying Sally?
Weaving,
Who's paying Sally Mayback?
And it was Sally Mae. 11%, baby.
Me too, girl.
Yeah,
I know all about her.
So it was like I didn't have an option. It was do or die. And, people were telling me like, oh, well, because it took me 9 years to graduate college, because after I transferred schools, I ran out of financial aid. And so I got a job at the university working as a full-time secretary, and then went to engineering school part-time to finish. So it took an insane amount of time, because when you're taking 2 classes a year,
To get an engineering
it goes
degree
very slowly.
But let me ask you a question.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
manning the fuck up.
Let's look at both sides of this coin. Could that have been a driving force for you also?
Oh, definitely. As soon as somebody tells me I can't do something, immediately. That was one of the defining moments for me that I decided I wanted to go into chemical engineering. Is in high school, I had a bad semester in my first chemistry class, and my chemistry teacher,
Was it a man?
It was a lady, actually.
Oh, okay.
It was a lady, yeah. Yeah, I still remember her name. She actually died recently. So sad. No, she actually was really nice. She was really nice. She inspired me. But I wanted to go take the advanced chemistry. I wanted to take AP chemistry because it interested me. Like, I was like, yeah, okay, well, I didn't do well this semester because I had a lot of stuff going on at home, but this is a subject that really, really interests me. And she told me, you're not smart enough to take this class. So she wouldn't sign off on me taking it. So I went to my counselor and I talked to the principal of the school, and I got permission to take the class. And I was like, yeah, I'm doing it. And at the end of me going through AP chemistry, she was so proud of me. And she was like, I was so wrong. I didn't get everything right. AP chemistry is really hard when you don't, as you go through chemistry.
Well,
you
especially if
learn
you didn't,
about it,
I was going to say, especially if you didn't necessarily lock in all the foundational,
like
from the first, because you were
you're
going through stuff.
learning it,
Yeah.
you go and you're learning more advanced stuff.
It's very much building blocks.
Yeah, but there was a lot of times where I would create new ways to do a problem on a test that she didn't teach me, just based off of logic and doing problem solving. And she would look at my test and put it up in front of the class and be like, I didn't even know you could do it this way. But this gives you the right answer.
Yeah.
This gives you the right answer. Yeah. So that was a really defining moment.
Okay, Good
That
Will
was when
Hunting.
I decided I was going to go into engineering.
Incredible.
Yeah, see, I think stories like that, though, that's the fact that listen, the fact that you guys, I don't know, I shouldn't say you guys.
Who is the you guys?
The fact that people take what other people say to them so personally, those are motivational things. I mean, if you want to play football and the first time you get knocked down, you're whining and crying about it, and the coach says, listen, I don't think I don't think you're cut out for football. Now you're all up in his feelings. No, maybe you're not fucking cut out for football. And when people say things to you like, you can't do that, or you can't do that, or this is not normal for a woman to do, or whatever, I think that's motivation for those people. And if you take it as that, no matter how fucked up you think it is, that separates the people that really want to do it and the people who are doing it just to get an education.
Stop putting it on the person, though, to take it and use it as motivation. Right now, my comment with the professor at the university was, A, that was unprofessional. B, you're in a position, your job is to identify talent, is to foster,
Maybe
interest.
He did identify the talent, and he was telling her that, look, you're an attractive, smart woman. You're going to have a difficult... You're going to have a difficult...
She was going to have to pick one, is what he told her.
Yes, because...
between the
I love that you're...
Because I'm thinking about it like a man would think about it, okay? You're going to have a more difficult time.
So you want us to think about things
attractive.
the way you do. So your way is the right. No, he was wrong. No, you're really trying to validate what this man said and find some sort of positivity.
Because I'm a man.
Or light at the end of the tunnel. I know. So Len, take it as a teachable moment. It's not helpful. That is part of the problem.
You say that, but now she is...
That's not why. She's that way because she is driven. She is that way because she's intelligent. She's that way because she's focused and believes in herself.
If she was teetering on the edge of not being driven, she wouldn't be an engineer right now. Because she would have went the other way from that conversation.
So what is your point?
My point
is
that not everybody...
Thank you.
No,
That's
but
great.
my point is that not everybody's cut out to be that person.
Yeah, but guess what? But if she'd had somebody who encouraged her like the first time, because her female teacher did the same thing, but came behind it with a "this is incredible and I'm so proud of you and look at this," and again, did a little motivating. I would have told you, I think the teacher's a bitch for telling her she's not smart enough, but that's a larger, more pervasive problem in education. We have no idea what's going on in children's homes and how that can impact and limit somebody's production in a school, but has no decisive kind of indication of their learning potential or, you know, what their true level of intelligence is. And that's also part of the problem when we talk about education as a whole, is that we track children from a very young age. We talked about that with Grant, where literally we decide in kindergarten what somebody's learning potential is going to be. You know, we have kids in advanced classes, you know, starting in first grade, but that kid in kindergarten who maybe had a tough time learning or was the class clown gets put in a, you know, a lesser class, and they could be brilliant. Maybe they just weren't being challenged enough. Maybe they just were bored, right? But now they spend their entire, you know, academic life underachieving because oftentimes we want to fit in with our peers, right? So now if I'm in a class with children who maybe are not at my academic level, I'm not going to be the kid raising my hand all the time knowing the answer because now I'm a dork, I'm a dweeb, I'm a nerd, right? Whereas the kids in the advanced class, even if I'm out of my wheelhouse and I maybe am not the most intelligent person, I'm forced to step up because I don't want to be the loser who doesn't know the answer. And that's a bigger problem with education.
Yeah.
So
I feel you.
Can I tell you guys a secret? This
Sure.
is totally like one of those things I shouldn't say on here. So I was considered special ed until I was in 8th grade.
shut the fuck up.
I was considered special ed. So when I was 4.5 years old, I was in a very severe car accident and I had a mild traumatic brain injury. And when I had been tested, I mean, this is really, really common in kids, by the way, but when I had been IQ tested before the car accident, because my doctor was like, oh my God, this child's like a genius. I tested at like 180. Like I maxed out their scale. They couldn't even like see where I was on the scale. But after the car accident, like it changed. Like I had a lot of trouble remembering things. I couldn't like remember who my teachers were necessarily like at the time. Like it,
You had brain trauma.
Yeah, like 4.5 years old is a pretty critical part of brain development. So like I was going through school in all these special ed classes and I kept telling everybody like, I'm not as dumb as you think I am. Yeah, like I can do this. Like I can, you know, I can read, I can participate. I was teaching my classmates the math and science that we were doing. You know, there was a lot of investment though in like, oh well, she's brain damaged, so she must be special ed because she's brain damaged. And as soon as they let me go in 8th grade and I convinced my parents to talk to the school to collaborate to get me out of these
I love
special
that
ed
you
classes.
talk to your parents about it. It's like, get me out of here, please,
Yeah,
people.
I mean, definitely there are people that need that support, you know, like IEPs and all of that. There are people that need special ed support. But I was in classes with children who couldn't legitimately read in 8th grade. And I was like, you know, I'm capable of a lot more than that. And so my freshman year of high school was the first time I wasn't in special ed classes. And by the time I was graduating, I was taking all AP classes. I was just like, all you guys had to do was let me go. But there's, you know, the system is not friendly to doing a lot of this stuff. They hold a lot of people back that can go, you know?
Well, because we've been tracked.
Yeah.
We decide.
They decided at a young age that I was special ed and I was going to be special ed.
And that's it.
For a while.
And there's no reassessment.
Yeah.
You know, and if you don't have parents that can fight for you, like yours did in 8th grade, to be like, no, you need to let her out, then who knows? That's incredible. Thank you for sharing that. Like that's really
very weird story.
That's a man the fuck up story.
That's
a man the fuck up story.
You've literally hit it. Like that. The battery shit is cool.
She's like, yeah, the battery.
No. It's incredible. And like I said, I love that you're using, you know, your platform for that. But when we talk about and we bring people in, you know, when we ask about, you know, what man the fuck up means to you, like I had no idea that that's your story, and you just hit us with like 3 incredible ones, from your college professor to your high school chem teacher to, oh wait, by the way, they had me in special ed classes till I was in 8th grade. This isn't like 1 year in kindergarten. That's a pretty,
It's
you know,
pretty
good
substantial,
chunk of
yeah.
your, you know, your lower level education years.
It's all of it.
You know, you're,
Yeah.
all of
she
it.
only had 4 years of high school to prove like, hey guys, like I got this, I promise.
Yeah, I could do math. Yeah, I mean, perseverance, I think, is the most important thing. You know, like my first couple years in college were pretty rough. Like I told you, I was kind of felt like I was unprepared because I didn't have the skills of studying. My parents didn't give me a lot of personal responsibility, so I kind of had to learn that too. And then my grandma died, and then, you know, I had to have my wisdom teeth taken out, which was a major surgery. And you know, I had been living with a boyfriend who didn't want me to go to school, didn't want me to go to college, and then we ended up breaking up, and I was like homeless. You know, like there
What
were.
are you looking at me for?
I wanted to see what positive spin you were going to put on that.
Really? Really?
You just want, you know, sometimes men
People
want
who are influences in your life. People who are
Yeah, he
who
was
are
an
influences.
asshole. Just so everybody knows.
Listen,
He was an asshole, and
you.
you know who you are.
Yeah.
Thank you.
but I just think people who are authoritarian figures in your life have different methods to motivate people.
Your boyfriend's not supposed to be an authoritarian.
I'm not talking about the
figure in
boyfriend. The
your life.
boyfriend's an
I
asshole.
just
That's
wanna
what I'm
put that
talking
there.
about. I'm talking about people who are like the professor or like your boss at work or like, you know, they have different ways of motivating people.
Mhm. Sometimes it's just straight sexism.
Yeah, or maybe he knew
He
how to
didn't
push
know,
your
Len.
How do you know?
He didn't know.
You don't know that.
He's a Len.
No.
This is why.
He
No,
actually was a he was the guy who was like, we can't date and like continue to date unless you get a boob job.
Not your
because
boyfriend. We're not talking about your boyfriend. We're
Oh,
talking
okay,
about
we're
talking about
talking-
your teacher.
So he not only.
Your
Oh, the
your
teacher
yeah,
guy.
the teacher guy.
Yeah, who knows? But it doesn't matter. He won an award for being like a great teacher, and I was like, good for you.
Mhm.
Like, you know.
I bet you
it's-
all of his male students voted for him.
Probably.
No, I don't think that the positive spin isn't there for me, Len. I'm sorry, it isn't. Yes, I think because she's incredible, she took that negative and turned it into a positive, and that's fantastic. But when you're in that position, you know, to look somebody in the face and go, listen, honey, like, listen, sweetie,
What if it was a female teacher telling a male teacher, a male student?
I'd call her an asshole too. Like,
Yeah.
hey,
But then it
you
wouldn't
know,
be sexist.
You're hot and you're smart. This doesn't make sense. There's, you know, that's not very frat boy of you. Like, what? I don't know what that is. I don't think, honestly, I don't see too many women saying that kind of thing. Like, unless, I don't know.
I don't know.
We did
Like-
have so my very first, no, maybe it was my second year in college. One of my friends was going to school to try to be a doctor, so she was going for a biology degree, and our one of our chemistry teachers at the college level, this was so funny. She was explaining something to my friend, and after like the second time, she like put down the pen on her desk. And this is a secondhand story, right? I wasn't there. My friend Zena told me about this. But she like put down her pen and she like clapped her hands and was like, Zena, I think you have a learning disability.
It's the woman.
It's like, what a thing to hear, like, from your professor is they think that you're so incapable of learning and so stupid that they think you have
Yeah.
a learning.
No, and I'm not saying that women can't be super like, yo, women can be women's biggest adversaries. Like, they can be your biggest haters. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying it's only on the men. I was specifically speaking. I want to be very clear about that, Len, because I'm not saying that women are always the most supportive either. But anyway, that's wild.
Yeah, there is
You have a
like
learning disability? That was a female teacher that said
Yeah,
that to
it
her?
was a female teacher
That was in science as well.
yeah.
Because there's only room for one. In case you didn't know, there's only room for one female science teacher at this school. So,
People are-
Zena, learn your role.
Yeah, learn your role. You can't be in science. It's just interesting because everybody has their own 2 cents to give you, right? And it's such a difficult balance to know when to take the 2 cents versus be like, this 2 cents is shit. You know, this isn't what I want. But ultimately, if you want to succeed, you have to kind of have some kind of like transcendentalism nature where you're going to
Facts.
follow the beat of your own drum and you're going to be like, thanks for your input, but this
Yeah.
is where I'm going.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. You know, it's it's like there's a lot of talk about, we talked about this a little bit on the phone, but a lot of people are worried about sexism with women getting hired into STEM fields. Like if I knock on a door and and I'm trying to be successful and they open the door and say, we don't want you here, then I don't want to work there. So I'm going to go knock on a different door that's going to, you know, give me the desire I want. Because the world is full of an infinite different amount of personalities and combinations of synergies between those people. And not all of it is even like a nature, I think, of just people being an asshole or being sexist. Like a lot of these STEM fields are men who don't spend a lot of time around women, so they're very uncomfortable. Yeah. So their behavior is just kind of AWOL because they're not used to dealing with women. They're used to joking around with the guys, and it's not malicious in nature, but they just don't know what to say. They don't know how to act. A lot of them have never dated a girl, so they're very nervous around them, like they've seen a woman outside of a computer screen.
The metaverse.
Yeah.
I had a girlfriend in the metaverse.
In the little cow headset.
No, like I said, and it's also representation. The more Joannas there are out there, the more comfortable, I just love that it's still on us to make them comfortable. But again, I'm not here to man bash. I swear to God, I'm not.
No, you're not.
No, STEM is just one of those things, Len. You're not a woman. So you don't understand representation with regard to that. You don't understand how oftentimes we are limited and, we are pigeonholed or we are redirected, even though we may be passionate about something. Like we've heard about it in the tech industry, how difficult it is for women in a lot of places. And a lot of women have been run out of Silicon Valley because of
like Sheryl Sandberg.
And, okay, so you're literally giving me an example. Like, so thank you.
Of the second most powerful person at Facebook?
You're giving me one woman.
Oh, you're giving me a tech industry. What do you,
so you're literally, so you're gonna
give me
the
tech industry is loaded with women. Loaded by what standard? She's a statistics person, my man. Like, so you're about to fail and fall flat on your fucking face with this one. Okay.
Like, loaded, why? Because there's 5? Woo! There's more than one? Like, that doesn't make it loaded. When there's 1,000 men.
How many female construction workers are there? They're welcome to swing a hammer. They're welcome to load bricks.
Okay, and be catcalled all day and literally have to, and some of them do it.
I don't know.
That doesn't make it okay. Like Lenny, and you won't as a white man who owns your business.
I know.
I get.
I'm
sometimes
special.
you gotta understand where
special.
you're coming
from. Forgot. I'm the chosen one.
I didn't say you're special in a lot of ways, not in the way you're trying to allude.
Fucking white man, you have it all. You have it all.
I'm not saying that, Len, but you're not a.
You're an olive man, actually.
Yeah, you're Italian with olive skin. You don't have titties. When was the last time you were catcalled walking down a street? Like, when was the last time you had to worry about being on a site by yourself with your coworkers?
What is that hurting anybody?
What is that?
Like if a fucking guy whistles when you're walking down the street.
Take it as a compliment.
Why is that
the
fucking...
fat fucking
No, ignore it. Ignore it.
Woo, baby!
Ignore it.
Let me see your pussy!
Ignore it.
Why do I have to be the bigger person all the time? That's like, why do I have to
walking by a fucking construction site? It's normal.
I'm walking down a street. Now I shouldn't walk down a street because they're doing
I didn't say you shouldn't walk down a street.
Control your hormones.
Just put your blinders on.
This is a wild conversation.
Because I don't think that you're wrong. There is a level of personal responsibility. But to Lenny's point too, there are so many different people out in the world. The only person you're going to be successful controlling is yourself.
1,000%.
So, I mean, you can't count. I can't.
But this is a great way. My only issue is accountability. To some degree, yes, I can be accountable for walking down the street, but also be accountable for being a dick. But your behavior is not. That's the problem. And that's the problem, Len. You think that behavior is okay.
I think construction workers know they're dicks. I think they know what they're doing when they whistle at a woman. And I think there's women that were flattered by it.
There are, but it's not all of them. And guess what?
Okay, but
do I want to work with it every single day? Do you hear yourself?
Every single day? I mean,
if your daughter wanted to be in tech, what do you mean? If I work on a construction, and here's the deal, we now have to
work on a construction site and you earn your fucking bums on a construction site.
I gotta earn them.
They're not going to.
Guess what? As a woman,
so does everybody.
No, but as a woman walking in. We had a woman, Stella sat in here and literally talked about, I'm not saying we can't do it, and we've got bigger balls than a lot of you. The fact remains, though, it's made very difficult in certain industries because men feel uncomfortable. I'm sure there's a lot of construction workers that feel uncomfortable with a boss-ass woman or a female foreman just because they've never had one or they don't like being told what to do by a woman. You know, female general contractors can be badasses, but does everybody give her the same respect that they automatically give you when you walk on a site? I don't know. I know for a fact that in tech, the amount of women is supremely undervalued, in comparison to men. It is what it is. In engineering, like, you're not going to tell me my numbers are wrong because they are. So when you say there's a ton of women in tech and you're going out of 1,000, there's 50.
We're going to know in 10 minutes, by the way.
But
that's
I'm gonna go look it up.
That's not a ton, though. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's literally 5%, my man. Like, that's not a ton. When women make up actually more of the world's population, there's more of us than there are of you. So we should technically be in the majority of everything.
Yeah, there's more. You got half the money and all the pussy. We understand that, okay? Men understand that, okay?
We also have the titties.
Yeah, there you go. It's
equal opportunity doesn't mean
was that your mic drop, by the way? Was that what that was supposed to be? You've got half the money and all the pussy, really?
It's the truth.
Okay, cool. Nestor, make sure to make that one.
You make that a clip. Put it out there.
You don't.
To our 70% female audience.
Just proved my point. Like, that's
yes, it's true. Yes. When did men stop becoming men and women stop becoming women? That's all I'm saying. Okay? You physically know that our brain is different, that we think differently. We know that men and women are different. So why do you constantly have to say, oh, men do this?
So we should just always acquiesce to you. Cool.
No, I'm not saying that.
No, you
Stand
are.
up for yourself. Stand up for yourself, but you're not going to.
Then you say, why are you bitching? Why are you always moaning? That is me standing up for myself. You realize that is what I'm doing right now. I'm standing up for women, and you are fighting.
You're standing up for women. You're not standing up for yourself.
Bitch, what the fuck you think I'm doing? Are you kidding me?
But that's the point. Every woman doesn't feel the same way.
I'm not speaking for those women.
You just said you're standing up for women.
I'm standing up for, and yes.
I've whistled at plenty of fucking women from a job site, and
they all
stopped
loved it.
and
Their
fucking talked to me.
got wet, didn't they?
They stopped and talked to me.
You're wild, bro. Like, I can't believe the conversation.
Well, you want to go to construction. You're going to bring out
that.
You're going to bring out the
it's hilarious. And I apologize for my language. I realize that it is now officially gone.
We better end this episode.
Next level. We're totally getting flagged by YouTube. They're going to be like, what? Especially because it's coming out of a woman's mouth. You know what I mean? If it's coming out of a man's mouth, it'd be a different situation. But
yeah, because I'm a white male. I can do anything.
This nasty woman right here. I'm the new nasty woman of 2022. Clearly, nah. At the end of the day, like, I get it. You can be a male chauvinist. I love you anyway. It's cool. We're just trying to make progress. It's 2022. It's called evolution.
Yeah.
Remember, there was a time
we're going to be sitting on the couch again talking. So
there are different.
This is not ending.
My man, we were literally.
There's absolutely different rules.
Mm-hmm. We no longer pick bugs out of each other's hair, like, and I'm grateful for that.
That's
you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm grateful for that. So maybe in another millennia, maybe in another million years, women will belong in STEM and we'll be able to be smart.
They belong
and
now.
We'll be able to be smart.
We'll be able to be smart and beautiful and not have it, pointed out to us and not told to choose one because you can't have both.
It is like the weirdest freaking phenomena. Like, when I was running for office and you go like door to door and you're like, hey, vote for me, and you give them your little literature, it was alarming how many people said, well, I love your message, but I won't vote for you because you're a woman. Literally verbatim, men and women. So it's interesting because women are almost as much of a culprit as the men are.
I don't disagree.
They're like, no, women belong at home with the babies.
I don't disagree.
Like, guess what? I don't have any kids. So
don't tell them that.
Supposed to be home
they
with?
really were voting for you then. Oh no, she's part of the population problem.
Yeah, that like if you don't use your eggs, they scramble. They do.
That's a clip.
No, I mean, Lenny, like I said, I don't. disagree, and we've had this conversation. You're not going to paint me out to be a person who hates traditional values or is anti a woman staying home. I'm defending the women who I'm speaking for right now are the women that are going to watch us and are like, fuck yes, that's right, let him know. And to the other women who want to think the opposite of me, that's the beauty of this country, and that's the beauty of the middle. They can vehemently disagree. I am speaking up, though, for the boss-ass women who walk in every day into fields where they are the only one in the room, the only pair of titties, the only long hair, like whatever the case may be, and they get it done because that takes balls. That's manning the fuck up.
Yeah,
ignoring what the fuck that professor said and forging on and carving her own path. That's manning the fuck up, and that's what this is about, you know. And he's an ass, and if you can't acknowledge that, then you might be an ass too.
Sorry.
It's okay. At least you're an ass that apologizes.
In America, you're allowed to be.
Yeah, clearly. You can be president and be an ass. I mean,
no. I mean, really, in the moment, it bothered me, but ultimately, it's such a speck in time.
Yes.
You know, like, if this is the issue and time just put me, like, this far away from it, it's so small now. Like, who cares?
Mm-hmm.
Who cares? It's just crazy that he felt like he could say something like that because the environment was
supported it.
It was inappropriate.
And but also
is weird.
But also supported it. Like he clearly felt comfortable enough saying that to you because that's the world that he lives in. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the environment that he operates in, and he saw nothing, I'm sure, wrong with it. And I don't know, I would love to know if there were any women that he did dissuade. You know what I mean? I would love to know if you were the only one that he said that, and there's now somebody out here who's a RN instead of a chemical engineer because he told her, you know,
I mean,
honey, you can be smart or pretty, but if you want to be both, you'll never have a husband. You know what I'm saying? Oh, well, shit. Like, and to that traditional value girl, well, I don't want my eggs to scramble, and I want to have a husband, so let me back out of this engineering program and do something more female friendly.
I don't think that's what he was saying, though. I think he was telling her. I think he was telling her that it was going to be difficult because she's a good-looking woman in a man's field. I think that's what he was telling her.
I mean, I have experienced a ton of sexual harassment, so maybe that was what he was going for.
Or he was just flat out hitting on you.
But
again, neither of which
it could have been a
relevant
opportunity. Like maybe he would have
or appropriate
just given me the diploma if I was like, yeah, okay, I'll pick the pretty one. What do you want? Like, you know, maybe I could have just gotten my there you go.
And a lot less Sally Mae money.
Yeah,
you know.
a lot less.
Shame on
nothing.
Shame on
what
you.
happened to the good old teacher's pet?
Oh my God,
yeah, dude.
Len, I'm so glad you're not a teacher because you'd be in jail.
Nah.
Right?
It happens.
No.
It totally happens, though. One of my friends is a professor, he's an assistant professor, and he told me there are girls who will come in his office, like offering sex for grades.
Well, and there are some girls that I think
I didn't know that was an option.
Shit!
Just like
I missed out.
Damn it! Just like there are high school boys that are completely turned on at the thought of sleeping with their hot teacher.
Yeah, with their teacher.
You know what I'm saying?
I think there's a song about it.
My ex is one of those men. So hey, it is what it is.
I think
you know what I mean?
That was kind of our generation's.
Stacy's mom or whatever.
Hot for teacher.
That's right. There is a whole song. It's Sorry, Len.
Got it bad.
When I do
got
have
it
a daughter,
bad.
her
Got
name
it bad.
Stacy.
There you go. I love it.
I'm gonna be Stacy's mom.
And guess what? You will definitely have it going on. All right.
All right.
Life goal: become a
there it is.
Engineer.
The sexiest job on the planet, says your professor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Smart, sexy. This engineering mind just.
We're going for it.
Wow. Interesting conversations always. Joanna, thank you for your time. Joanna Lauren 45 on TikTok. Are you anywhere else?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram and I'm on YouTube. My YouTube really just has a bunch of really old singing videos on it, though, that are pretty embarrassing. So
definitely check those out.
Don't go check those out. Maybe don't. There's literally like videos of me being like 17 years old on there.
I love it. Endearing. We just need to see your plethora of talents, so I'm here for it. And of course, we're always here on all social media. Like, subscribe, follow, share. Drop your comments. We read them. In fact, who knows? You may actually be the topic of conversation in a future podcast, depending
Or on it.
what you say, or on it. If you think you have something to contribute to the conversation or you'd like to be a guest, Len is always looking. So you can actually email Lenny.
Yeah.
At
Lenny at
ManTFUp.com.
ManTFUpTV.com.
There you go.
That's fine.
If you know something,
I need some male chauvinist backup, please.
let me tell you, social media is at no
I'll just
loss
sit back
for
and
that.
watch.
TikTok has got I think it's also Man Talk, Toxic Talk, all of that. If you're a part of any of those subcultures, please bring it on. You know what I mean? But anyway, again, it was such a pleasure to have you. Hopefully you'll come back again. And
I would love that.
you're incredible. And I'm so glad that we got into some of your personal stories, because definitely a great example of what it is to man the fuck up.
Hopefully it doesn't come back and bite me. I can just see the people in my comment section right now being like, we shouldn't listen.
You're going to know in about
She's
2 minutes if anybody
brain
logged into your
She's
live.
brain
Yeah. She's brain damaged. She's defective. No, I'm so glad that I came. I'm so glad that I manned up. This has been a really enjoyable experience. Anybody
that Lenny's stalking
interested
right
in
now
doing
and
this.
sliding in your DMs.
Yeah, I mean, Lenny will stalk you. So that's a little creepy, but if you can get past that,
good intentions.
it's been a great experience.
And it's not just
And
me
I love
stalking you. It's one of our secretaries stalking you also.
Shout out to Angelique. I may even stalk you a little bit
Yes.
once somebody points out who
The
we're
whole
looking at.
company is stalkers.
Yeah. You got to be in 2022. It's the only way to get things done.
Just kidding. This has been a lovely experience. I would really encourage people there, even if you feel like you vehemently disagree with them. I think that they're amazing people and very, very balanced and very accepting. So,
If we fight with each other, it has nothing to do with you. Just know that. That's just part of my dynamic with Len. So sometimes our guests bring it out of me. That's always wonderful, but it has
Sometimes
been.
they bring it out of me.
Sometimes.
make
Yeah,
it fun.
yeah.
Usually I get a little more fired up at you, though, than you're high five. Nice job, buddy. Nice
This is
job.
a perfect example of people who can disagree and be friends. Look closely, everybody.
Yes. It's all love. But anyway, we'll catch you next time on the ManTFUp podcast. Remember, like, subscribe, share, follow, drop your comments, please. And if you have any, advice or encouragement or, again, guest recommendations, feel free to email Lenny at ManTFUpTV.com or Kimmy B at ManTFUpTV.com.
Peace.